The sun had just risen, casting a pale golden glow over the pristine landscape. Snowflakes sparkled like tiny diamonds, blanketing the forest in a soft, white shroud. It was a perfect morning for snowshoeing, or so I thought. The small town in Oregon was still asleep, leaving the woods eerily quiet, as if holding its breath in anticipation. I strapped on my snowshoes and ventured into the silent wilderness, the crunch of snow beneath my feet the only sound to break the oppressive stillness. The forest was a place of haunting beauty. Tall pines stood like sentinels, their branches heavy with fresh snow. The air was crisp and cold, and my breath formed clouds that quickly dissipated into the frigid air. I had come here seeking solitude, a break from the noise and chaos of everyday life. But as I moved deeper into the forest, an unsettling feeling crept over me, like icy fingers brushing against my spine. It felt as if the trees themselves were watching me, their bare branches stretching out like skeletal hands. I pushed the feeling aside and continued, the snow crunching beneath my snowshoes in a rhythmic cadence. But the deeper I went, the more the forest seemed to close in around me, the silence growing thicker, almost tangible. It was a silence that pressed against my ears, making my own breathing sound unnaturally loud. The hairs on the back of my neck stood on end, and I couldn't shake the sensation that I was not alone. After an hour or so, I decided it was time to head back. I turned around, following my tracks in the snow. That's when I saw them. Fresh footprints, human footprints, running parallel to my own. But they were not mine. The snow was undisturbed except for these new tracks, which lay next to my own like a shadow. The footprints were peculiar. The snow was 10 centimeters deep, yet these prints were barely indented, no more than a centimeter deep. As if something, or someone, light as a feather had walked beside me. What's more, the steps were impossibly long, each stride spanning 3 meters. It was as if whatever had made them had taken great, effortless leaps. The tracks began out of nowhere, materializing from the untouched snow, and they ended disturbingly close to where I stood. I felt a chill that had nothing to do with the cold. My heart pounded in my chest, each beat echoing in the silence. I scanned the forest, but there was no sign of movement, no sound to indicate another presence. Just the silent, staring trees and the mysterious footprints beside mine. Panic set in. I turned and hurried back towards the car, my breath coming in rapid, frosty puffs. The forest seemed to shift around me, the trees looming closer, their shadows growing longer and darker. The path I had taken looked different, the familiar landmarks distorted. It was as if the forest was alive, twisting and turning to confound me, to keep me within its icy grip. I stumbled and fell, the snow cushioning my fall. When I looked up, I saw them again. The footprints. They had followed me, appearing out of the snow as if by magic. Fear gripped me, and I scrambled to my feet, running now, no longer caring about the direction. I needed to escape, to get away from whatever was out there. The forest seemed to mock my desperation, the silent trees standing as mute witnesses to my terror. Finally, I burst into the clearing where my car was parked, the sight of it a blessed relief. I tore off my snowshoes and threw them into the backseat, my hands shaking as I fumbled with the keys. As I drove away, I glanced in the rearview mirror. The forest stood as it always had, serene and still, but I knew better. I had felt its presence, the way it had watched and followed me. The footprints had vanished, as if they had never existed, but the memory of them lingered. What haunted me that day? I still don't know. Was it a ghost, some restless spirit of the woods? Or was it the forest itself, alive and aware, playing its cruel game? The footprints, with their impossible steps and shallow impressions, remain a mystery. But one thing is certain. The forest is not just a collection of trees and snow. It has a life of its own, and sometimes it reaches out to those who dare to wander too far into its depths. The town in Oregon remains quiet, the forest undisturbed, but I know what lies within. The next time someone ventures into those woods, they might not be as lucky as I was to escape. The forest remembers and it watches, waiting for its next visitor.